Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Y-Wells, wherever in the world you are today. So today is November 11th. It's voting day. Everyone go out and vote if you're here in the United States, anywhere from coast to coast. It's also the day that FTX is we're starting to see a few teeters in the wall of that massive behemoth that Sam Bankman has built. And so a little uncertainty. I sit here today and they just, as we're recording this, we just got notice that FTX has halted withdrawals. Don't know what that means. Could be back open within an hour, or could be similar to Celsius and other ones. But the most important part is, again, cryptocurrencies is not Web3, an entire asset class. And so part of the entire education that we constantly do is to help people to really derive a differentiator between what's happening in the cryptocurrency market, which is derivatives trading of sorts, or you can define it in a variety of ways, versus actual blockchain technologies, which is NFTs, blockchains level ones, zeros and threes, or wherever you want to look at those. And so today we're really here to talk about CODAMADE with Marc and Toni. And so let's just dive right into that. So Marc, would you mind giving a little bit of your background? You have a very storied history, and I'm excited how you ended up in this asset class.
High school dropout that fell into fine art photography in the early to mid 90s. Worked as a courier in a print shop, and was able to play with the photographs at night, at the print shop. And in the mid 90s, a lot of print shops were starting to have in-house advertising agencies. So through graphic design, I fell into printing, had a love for printing. And then our first agency was born out of kind of one of these failed print shops. We kind of had to figure out what to do. And me and a partner started an agency that lasted about 4 years. And then in 2001, I started MAD. Kind of the same thing, quickly invested into a print shop and, kind of grew both the advertising and the print side based on opportunities. But always had a love for tech. I tell people I read one too many William Gibson books as a kid and just, had a massive love for technology, and, always wondered why we were so far behind. So, with that, got into, we had a lot of telecom clients. So we got into mobile applications kind of early days. AR and VR also very early as 2005. Continued to use VR almost as a marketing tool for the agency. We were constantly building, these really amazing projects, a lot of them in-house or, on spec for clients, just to kind of see if there was a market for it. But what that did was really, people would say, oh, you can do that. You can easily do my marketing campaign and my emails, right? So it was, it was a real, growth provider for us. So, that was it. Then, created a bunch of different divisions within the company, kind of as we saw opportunities, and brought on some partners in some of these. We started a dev side of the business where software development, mixed with hardware sometimes. And that started about 15 years ago. We had what's called Mad Arts, which was a nonprofit that we started in the business to kind of pay it like a forced pay it forward, working with artists, giving them the resources of the agency. That really actually led us into NFTs. One of the artists we were working with was like, hey, I really want to get into NFTs. And we had taken a look at it, but we didn't feel like we were ready for it. Most of the people that we had met, we weren't comfortable working with in the Web3 and crypto space. And we were like, let's just hold off and see what's going on. And, with this artist asking us to get in, his name was David Carson. He was like a personal hero for a bunch of us. He's like a graphic design legend. And we got into the space and got a very quick education on kind of what was going on there in the space. Understood that it was a completely different community than, the current art community, which was interesting. And it was artist focused, which was, amazing for us because we all consider ourselves artists first, And, with that, we popped up a company called MAD NFT, which was supposed to be a side project for fun, creating our own NFTs and helping artists create NFTs. And maybe 2 months later, I met Toni, and all these opportunities started happening in and around public art. And, shortly thereafter, Toni and I formed CODAMADE, a combination of the two companies, CODAworx and MAD. And, from there, we built a really interesting beta test, which was a proof of concept, to show that there was an interest in public art, for NFTs, both from the public art agencies and the artist alike.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
So real quick, and again, great history there. And again, coming from an asset class that's now merging or transitioning in some ways into this new Web3,
Yeah.
NFTs is it's the new JPEG.
Yeah.
It's the new concept of which people didn't understand, back when Web 1
Right.
and Web 2 were rolling out, how is art going to be affected? And we've seen it be a massive enhancement to artists around the world and to have that digital format. So I'm excited to kind of get a little, Toni, of your background and then hear exactly what you guys built today.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for having us, Jay. We really appreciate it. I've spent my entire career building companies to help artists make a living. That's underlying every single thing I've ever done. My first business, which I started in the 80s, was a directory publishing business for artists who did large commissioned art. That company ran for 24 years. My second company is called Artful Home. Today, it's the largest e-commerce company for artists who create products for the home, furniture, lighting, that kind of thing. And then CODAworx came out of my first directory publishing business, taking that to the internet. And it is a platform that brings together artists who do public art, the people who commission that kind of work, architects, public art agencies, developers, and then the entire ecosystem they work with to bring these pieces of artwork to life. Fabricators, lighting designers, engineers. I mean, it really does require an ecosystem. And along the way, and as part of the process of what we do, we produce a wonderful conference on art and technology. And as a result, over the years, I've been able to see how artists are using technology tools to create new art forms, everything from projection mapping, experiential artwork, interactive artwork. And so I have always felt that if you've got new technology, artists will take those tools and figure out how to do something exciting and extraordinary with it. And thus my interest in NFTs. And meeting Marc gave me the opportunity to figure out not only how can we sell NFTs, because I know how to do that, how do we show artists what the potential in terms of a whole new medium for creation.
Yeah, and we're so early in this cycle. NFTs are at best maybe 30 months old. We've seen kind of the rise. There's now what people are referring to as NFTs 2.0, which has more real world or utility value. So a little bit more of the concept of just digital scarcity, which is a very strange concept to me. Digital scarcity is not a real thing. Artificial scarcity is, but digitally we can make copies and replicas of everything else. So the idea of artificial scarcity, or kind of how artists or projects want to manage access to their art or access to their communities or content is a very interesting thing. So jump really right into, Toni, if you don't mind, exactly how the process or how CODAMADE, how an artist would onboard and what that looks like for the artists, and then we'll jump over and talk about what it looks like for the consumers.
Well, and Jay, I just want to reiterate something you said. We are so early, and one of the traits that Marc and I share is that whenever we see a new technology, we hold hands and go rushing into it as fast as we can. So, because you never know what it's going to turn into, but we know we want to be there. We want to be there. The opportunities are great. So the concept and what we have done to date, and we actually do have some examples, is when a piece of public art is installed. That's a major event for a city. You know, it's years in the making. It's a lot of money that's being spent, and it's going to produce something that hopefully will become an icon for the city, for the citizens of the city, for the people who visit that city. And so how do we take that piece of work or that installation and expand on the physical piece and take it into the virtual world, the digital world, so that not only can it be, it extends the tools that are available to the artist, but it also makes it available not just to the people who live in that community or the people who visit that community, but to people around the world who are interested in art. So it's really an extension and an expansion. I mean, imagine if you go to Chicago and visit the Bean. You know, people buy replicas of that. Imagine if you could have it in your home or your office or on your computer. So that's my response, and I'm sure Marc can do something a little more eloquent than that.
Of course.
No, I mean, I think NFTs, you know, I fell in love with them because I realized it was a medium that artists could use, that you allow them to do things they couldn't do anywhere else. The first one that I saw that kind of caught my attention that way was a piece by Daniel Arsham. And it was just a bust on a pedestal sitting in front of a window, and it degenerated and regenerated over the course of 1 year. All right, that's kind of cool. But then wherever you were in the world when you opened it in your digital wallet, it would mimic your weather outside the back window. And I was like, man, intersecting with live data that way, right? And staying on chain, you know, and being able to authenticate and, you know, have the artist have say over what their piece does even after it's created, right?
Yep.
You can't do that with any other medium, right? So what are the limits? And I'm, you know, because of the agency side, we're data guys, right? And so, and we love that. And so we were just like, the possibilities are endless, you know? And so, you know, that was where a lot of the artists we were working with, we had an artist come to us, and a pretty high-end NFT artist named Corey Van Loo, and he was like, "Hey, I want to paint this car in the metaverse." You know, he had gotten asked to paint this car and turn it into an NFT. And he's like, "I want to paint it in the metaverse." And I'm like, "All right, well, how do you do that?" And so, you know, we brought him in. We have a motion capture studio inside of our facility, and brought a car in and started playing with it. And he's got a real specific set of brush strokes and colors that he uses. So we realized we'd have to build him a game controller, you know, to use as his paintbrush, basically, so that we could know what he was doing and not have it be clunky. And then, you know, that turned into, he's like, "Hey, it's going to get boring watching me do this, you know, for hours on a time. What else can people interact with in this metaverse?" Right. And so, you know, seeing an artist get a hold of these tools and just watch their mind go crazy when they see that there's no limit, you know, you know, it's a new world literally for artists. And, you know, seeing the artists get excited about these things as they understand it. You know, Corey's 31 years old, but we're also working with artists that are significantly older and further along in their careers. And when they start to understand the possibilities of it and see, you know, that, hey, there's just no rules. Like, you know, you can do, if you can think it, you can do it. It's I mean, there's nothing better.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when we're talking about the technology, and, you know, now then you're kind of bouncing back and forth in between, you know, true artists, and I'm going to raise my hand and say I don't always understand art, and, you know, but I understand the technology behind things. The biggest point that I love about NFTs is the ability to have validated metrics, which you're, you know, Marc, you just said you're a data guy, for communities. And so generally, you know, the art world is very heavily driven by communities. It's very, you know, these are art functions or parties. There's a lot of things that you know need to be known. And the idea that you can have anyone in the world at any time instantly validated and verified for owning these artworks. What does that do for communities?
You want to take that, Toni?
First of all, let me thank you for asking that. And we, Marc and I, understand how important communities are in the NFT space. But that's what we have created at CODAworx, is an amazing community, this ecosystem of all of the players. There is no hierarchy. I'm not a fan of hierarchies, and the art world has a lot of hierarchies. But in CODAworx, whether you are the fabricator who makes the sculpture or the artist who comes up with the idea for the sculpture, or the company that installs the sculpture, everybody's a collaborator, everybody is necessary to the process. So I love the concept of a digital community where everyone can interact, because that's what we've tried to create with CODAworx, and I think we've succeeded in that. And this allows us to just expand that. Does that answer your question, Jay?
No, it absolutely does. So when you guys, and currently, correct me if I'm wrong, you have about 20,000 artists that are inside your platforms, and so there's a lot of collaboration and ideas that are flowing. Because let's be clear, artists are not quiet or non-vocal people. There's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of thoughts, and there's a lot of concepts. How do you manage from that community? How do you manage expectations and roadmaps of where you guys are going?
So, we're at our infancy as well, right? So not only, NFTs, you could say, are in their, not even toddler stage, but we're at our real infancy, so we had our proof of concept launch October 12th. We worked with 7 artists on that proof of concept, and then we've probably worked with 10 others in what we're doing specifically in this area, but, talked with hundreds. Most of the artists in the CODAworx/CODAMADE community, they don't want to spend 8 hours a day on NFT Twitter or, Discord or Clubhouse or any of these. They just don't have the time. These are busy working artists on big projects.
Yep.
And the current NFT community wants to hear from the artist, right? There's, we have a problem that we had to overcome, So, with CODAMADE, what we've been trying to do is we've been engaging with the public art agencies to kind of create this new community. So we have the existing CODAworx community, which is tight and amazing, and so many parodies to the NFT community. It was amazing to see and learn that. So as we're working with these public art agencies, we're asking the public art agencies to include NFTs in their RFPs when they're asking to have these pieces of work produced, right? So the artists are producing these, and then the public art agency is buying a certain percentage of those NFTs, and then the artist is also able to push out these NFTs to their collector base and their community. So the public art agencies are able to start. The idea is that they're going to start to create this community within the local community that is proud of this piece that's been produced, that wants to participate and be part of it. And you had brought up utility, and we're talking about how eventually these pieces could be used as utilities, or in City of Atlanta, we're working with someone where both the artist and the municipality are looking at donating their percentage of sales of the NFTs to charities in the community, right? So to do good, because that's always a knock, right? Why are we spending money on public art when the community has all these problems? So we're looking at this. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's very cool. So real quick, help me understand, because the NFT, because it is such a very new technology and everyone's still evolving, define, in your guys's with CODAMADE, how, Toni, if you don't mind, kind of how you think of NFT. In my mind, an NFT is a key. It's a key to a gateway, and it allows you to unlock things. And that could be a very simple access to a community. It could be, unlocking ownership to a physical item or your digital good. But what is, when someone buys an artist's CODAMADE NFT, what is kind of the core value that you guys are trying to push and derive for both the purchaser and for the artist?
I will answer that by telling you how I feel about public art and why I love public art. Public art is for everyone. It is for the person walking through an airport, or visiting a hotel, or staying in a hospital. Public art is for everyone, as opposed to when most of the world thinks of art, they think of going to a museum, going to a gallery. Well, the percentage of people who do that is very, very small. But everyone experiences public art in one form or another every single day. And that, to me, that has always felt like the most important kind of art. It doesn't cost anything. You experience it everywhere you go. And that is how I'm viewing the NFTs we want to create. We want to do, as we work with these artists, you asked earlier about expectations. I think our community, it's so new. They're all saying, how many should I make? How should I price it? We are steering them to lower price pieces and larger editions so that we can continue that concept of having art for everyone. So we, at this time, because it's still very undefined, we are thinking about NFTs, and some will be more expensive because they'll be animation and sound and all of the technology tools that MAD can provide. But beyond that, we want to have lower priced NFTs where when someone visits a piece of artwork, they can take it home with them in a virtual way. Or when someone in South Korea wants to see a piece of public art that's just been in the news, they can find it on CODAMADE. So that's sort of the basic concept of how I come at it. We can talk later about money and pricing, because there are other reasons why I believe so strongly in the metaverse and its NFTs.
Let's jump right into that, because I was going to say, what's the business model and metrics behind this? You guys are, while you love public art and you have lots of love for the space, businesses unfortunately require capital to continue operating. And this is a very free flow. You'd be shocked how many sprinkle some magic, blockchain dust on anything, and suddenly it's got a magic massive valuation. But the concept I have is that the technology is really just getting to the starting line. From there, all the work has to happen of making sure that there is derived value, that the purchasers do see long-term value in this. And so there's a lot of concepts in here. So I'd just love to hear kind of, again, that onboarding, talk to me about like, hey, Jay as a photographer wants to onboard onto your platform. Right. What does that look like? And how do my fans, of which there are zero, how do they engage with me?
Yeah. So
go ahead, Marc.
There's I'll take some of it. I'll let Toni take the other. She's probably better at talking about it, but I'm jumping in. It's a curated marketplace, so we're going to take 10%, of the sales. The other 90% is for the artists. We've got membership tiers that we're looking at here. So a big part of our platform is education, right? So we understand that there's artists getting in here that don't know what an NFT is, and they're confused between NFT and blockchain, and how do I navigate this space and all these things. So for us, it's going to be a constantly evolving membership. Education part of it that we'll constantly be adding to. So we're looking at education both from the artist, from the collector, and then also from, like we were talking about before, the public art agencies. How do we keep them apprised, and how do we keep them also safe, in this ecosystem, right? From, making sure that, as they're interacting with artists and communities and wanting to maybe go deeper, like let's say DAOs or other things, how do we keep them, how do we help them navigate that space properly? So that's part of it. We've got a hardware component, because that's always a big question. Okay, I bought this NFT. What do I do with it? So we've got a whole hardware, based on the relationships that CODAworx already had with major technology companies like Panasonic and Epson, Barco. And then, one of our investors is also, he's a manufacturer of cameras and screens, and has associations with plants in China. So, we have a whole hardware side of it that we want to help people, the collectors. How do we display it, and how do we get more people to see these amazing pieces that these artists are producing? So, that's a big part of it. And then from, I don't know, Toni, do you want to talk about the collector side and, kind of some of the other ideas that we have?
Yeah, we are looking at the museum model of a collector's circle, where people can join at a much higher level and have access to early NFTs or conversations with the artists, perhaps some travels. That's a because I have participated in the museum world. That's a very important part of a museum model, is how they offer something special to their collectors. And you see that being replicated all the time in the NFT world. So I think it's a perfect example. But I want to, and we have done 3-year financial projections, and underscoring it all is, of course, NFT sales. And, we're going to take a year or two to really figure that out. But we're feeling very good about the other forms of revenue that we baked into this model. But the other thing I want to talk about, Jay, if you don't mind, is the one of the major reasons why we are attracted to the NFT space, and that is it puts the artist at the core of the creator. Is where they're in control. They get most of the revenue. They get ongoing revenue. It takes what is a terrible model. The art world is a terrible model for artists. You have to pay a gallery 50%. You don't get anything if the piece resells. The NFT world sets that on its upside down. It turns it upside down, and that is what I love about this world. It puts the artist in control.
Yeah, the concepts of combining NFTs, which is one blockchain technology, with smart contracts, which are another blockchain technology, really does change the game in a number of ways. The idea that let's take a purely digital NFT. You can ensure that for the life of that NFT, which theoretically is forever, that the artist or whatever designation that artist gives of where funds should be deposited, will just every time that is being traded, they'll get residual value from that. So number one, huge, and I completely agree from there. The concept of a digital certificate with a physical item is exactly what will help decrease fraud, and increase value over time, because we're used to hey, you've got a certificate that comes with it, it's signed, and you still have to send it away. And I know very little about the art world, but you still have to have a third party validate and verify it. And that has to happen, every time it's changing hands, no matter what the chain of custody is. So you're talking about a massive amount of efficiency. Yeah. You're talking about, a massive amount of history that can be collected and passed down through that artwork. So I completely agree with you. It's the right technology. We're just so early that we get to define, right now, or play around with what should this or should this not look like. And there's a lot there. Talk a little bit about your technology stack. If you don't remember, we're a group of nerds. Ethereum, Solana, Polygon. Where are you guys primarily focused right now?
Ethereum, yeah. Based on who we were talking to, we knew, a lot of the questions that we got asked were, about the environment and these sorts of things. And with the merger, we just felt like Ethereum was the way to go. Something else that was real important to us, since the community that we're talking to are not savvy crypto people. We needed to be able to do credit card transactions. And the way that as we were looking at it, Ethereum made it the easiest for us. And me and Toni probably aren't the best technology guys on
that's okay.
A part of the team to talk about all the back end and what went into that. But we, as those decisions were being made, it was, there didn't seem to be a lot of questions about what we were going to go on, and it was Ethereum from the beginning.
Yeah, but the part of this that really is relevant is that you guys are curating. And so when people go on to OpenSeas or Magic Eden or any of the other NFT marketplaces, it's really kind of game on. What you don't know what you're getting, you don't really know who's behind the scenes, and so they're very much similar to what we're doing here today, where I'm interviewing Toni and Marc. We want to hear their opinions. We want to validate that they're real people, that their intentions are sound, and they're trying to move the technology forward. And so that's where we're able to then recommend projects like CODAworx and CODAMADE. And probably a similar thing happens with you guys in the art world. It's not just send in a picture and you post it. You're going to want to know the history. You're going to want to do an entire interview with these people, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And
That's
it's
right.
also, we're solely based in public art, right? So, and based on the background that CODAworx already had in the history and the complete immersion that they had in the public art space, it made it easy to know which artists we wanted to work with at the beginning, and and engaging with them, 100% of them said yes. Tell me more about this. How do I get engaged, and how do you do it? So, in the art world, everyone's familiar with what's going on, in the NFT space. But I'll say this: almost 100% of them had dabbled or tried to get in and just weren't able to navigate. It's most of the NFT art that's being created now. Large percentages of it are not being created by artists that were working, prior to getting into NFTs, right? And you do have some, and they're generally successful. And even when you had the downturn and the crash, those, I would say professional artists that had been producing quality work, that their values stayed higher. Corey Van Loo, who I talked about before, he was a working artist prior to getting into NFTs. He was a painter. He had done some stuff with Disney on the Soul movie. So he had some good successes prior to NFTs, but he right place, right time, got into it, loved the space, understood how to market himself. And his work's amazing. So that helps, as he did that, he was able to navigate the space, but, he doesn't enjoy spending 8 hours a day on social media, instead of, more time.
I don't know who does.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, so with that was the questions from the artists in our, how do we navigate this space and how do we do it? And so, what CODAMADE's trying to do is, bring in the existing art community and show them the value of these of NFTs and, what you can do with this artwork. And it's a new medium, just like, photography at one point.
Yeah. So as far as playing with this new medium and launching this new product, what's been your favorite product that you guys or I'm sorry, not product. What's been your favorite NFT that you guys have launched, since CODAMADE's gone live?
Oh my God. Can I talk about every one of them?
Yeah. Depends on what that list is.
Let me tell you, I actually, I cannot give you a favorite, but I will talk about one that I love very much, that is so beautiful and powerful. That we work with a collective in Louisville, Kentucky called I Was Here. And it's a group of artists who had studios around a space in downtown that had been used to sell slaves. And their studios were around the square. And the day after the 2016 election, they got together and decided to do something to make a statement. And they combined photography, music, poetry, and they created this amazing project with powerful images of African Americans and their children, with sound and poetry woven into it. And they displayed them around the square. That year, they won a CODA award for one of the best projects, which took them to a national level. And we invited them to do an NFT. And Marc and his team created these NFTs that combine all of that: the music, the poetry, the photography, and the pieces that came out of that are just fabulous, and they've been selling well for us. And now they have a group that wants to display those NFTs in Times Square. So
Wow.
I mean, that's another example. How do you take this and extend it beyond the original installation?
Yep.
You want to see that NFT, don't you, Jay?
I do now. That's why I asked
one.
you to describe it. I was just in Times Square last week, so and I can entirely imagine how a very vivid and vibrant piece of art. Again, it's the fact that it's the medium is digital doesn't mean it's not, you know, a ton of work and ton of time and ton of effort and thought have gone into it. So it's amazing. Marc, what was what's kind of the top of your head one that you can think of that you really just loved working on?
I mean, they were all amazing in their own way. We picked 7 very different artists to work with. So that one that Toni was talking about, I was here. That one was amazing, and working with that group in particular. Those are called spirit portraits, and you know, we brought them to life. The one that I really enjoyed and that has a lot of legs and you know, has additional aspects that I can describe as well. We're working with a professional percussionist named Maria Finkelmeyer out of Boston, and her instrument that she uses, one of them is the marimba. And what we did with her was we took her mallets and we tracked the movements of her mallets and her arms using motion capture, and then we mapped the marimba, and each key, each key on the marimba, you know, had its own color. So she was able to actually she had this idea for these sound webs was her idea. So by tracking her movements as she played these songs that she wrote specifically for these NFTs, we were able to essentially paint these amazing sound webs with these original pieces of music and have her do it. So at the very core of the web, in white, you could see her little movements of these things, and it just grew into this thing. And then using the 3D tools and the amazing artists that we have, you're able to do these fly-throughs through it. That were all directed by the artist, because you know, we didn't want to get in the way of the artistic vision. We wanted to help basically her, whatever crazy idea she had, we wanted to bring it to life, right? So we don't want to be in the way, and we don't want to affect. You know, we want to enhance. So you know, those were some of my favorites as far as what happened. I mean, there were so many great ones that, you know, I'm not going to say I had a favorite, but you know, that was the most fun. And I had actually, I met Maria Finkelmeyer at the first CODAworx summit that I went to. And we were going to work with her, you know, even if CODAMADE hadn't become available, you know, I mean, you know, hadn't been created. So, and then something interesting with Maria's is we work with a local children's hospital down in Florida. And we started talking to them about, similar to how, you know, they ring the bell when when a patient's cured of cancer, right? So the idea that she would create a small song that the kids could play as they are being cured from whatever ailment they have. And then an NFT could be created from the kids playing. And then every time another kid plays, it's added on and added on. And we're working through the details to see if we can import some of like milestones in their lives from social media or from other things to, you know, and have this NFT be this constant growing kind of amazing things that they can sell to raise money for the hospital, similar to how they have the kids' drawings that they auction off. In this way, it could be these NFTs that could become valuable in some way or another. They have a lot of celebrities that come to the hospitals on visits. The celebrity could play, and that part could add to the NFT and continue to raise money that way. So, you know, when you're asking about how you see these NFTs being used, you know, you put them in the hands of artists, and you're going to get a billion different answers, you know, that are just, you know, some of them are amazing, some of them are crazy, some of them are, all over the place. But I think, you know, you're just going to see amazing uses for these things.
Yeah, and what I just loved about the way you guys both just answered is the energy, excitement, and curiosity. It's digital. You guys have the world is your oyster. You can work with any artist anywhere in the world. Time zones is the only challenge you struggle with, and so you're really defining almost a new part of this art class, which is kind of a merger between physical, digital. And then there's a third part that I can't define, but clearly there's something that's merging these things in there. It's a little bit of community, a little bit of utility. But Toni, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, Jay, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. You get it. You get it. Thank you so much. What I wanted to add, because I think it's a good way to reinforce this, Maria Finkelmeyer, the percussionist, was in our world because she started creating projection mapping pieces. So she would do music and she would project onto a building or the roof of a room that so she was already connecting, using technology to connect her music to something that changed the space. So she was creating place-making pieces through her music. And that's a real important point, because when you say public art, people immediately think the bean, because big public sculpture is certainly a very important part of our world. But the public art world is changing. It's incorporating sound. It's certainly technology. And so here you have a group of artists who project spirit portraits on the sides of buildings. It's a greatly expanding world, which is part of what makes it so exciting for me. And all of the artists doing that kind of work are perfect to think about for NFTs.
No, I absolutely love that. So as we kind of draw to a close here with the podcast, and again, I'm really enthralled and excited to see the roadmap you guys have continued to build out. Just some thoughts about how any aspiring artists or kind of very interested investors, as well as potential community members, should be thinking about where the space is going in your minds over the next few years. Marc, I'll start with you.
Wherever your mind takes you, right? So, we're talking with a large U.S. auto manufacturer about doing a Pokemon Go style road trip game where they could, as the cars drive, they could collect. They would commission and collect NFTs from public works that are in and around municipalities, right? So, it's ask questions. If you want to know how to get in, ask questions and be curious, and just that's the best way, so it's realistically, if you have an idea, investigate it and see how, see what you can do with it. There's so many avenues that can be done in Web3 and NFTs, that metaverses, and I don't be scared, right? People always, metaverse, it sounds scary. I was like, The Sims was theoretically a metaverse, right? They've been around forever. Any video game ecosystem's a metaverse. It's not scary. It's actually pretty simple once you break it down. And so, and that idea, another someone else that we're working with that does something with architecture. One of their events got skipped because of COVID in 2021 or 2022. I can't remember. And they essentially want to redo that in the metaverse, so that all those artists that did all this amazing work don't get skipped over. And then they want to, commemorate all the events going forward in the metaverse. So somebody could do a historical walkthrough year after year in these things, and they exist forever, right? And you could buy NFTs of these pieces, and, again, same thing. Most everyone seems to have a charity or something that they want to attach these things to, right? Education, other things. So, those are the conversations that we're having, and they're just some of the most interesting conversations I've ever had in my professional career.
I love that. And one of these days we'll find a new word for metaverse, because Facebook has kind of ruined it. But the idea of an alternate reality is absolutely, and I'm very excited to kind of see where these things go. And we do believe very much in quote unquote metaverse or an immersive, kind of experience for people. Toni, what's your thoughts as we head towards close, for anyone that's, kind of interested in this and wants to learn some more?
Thank you for asking that, Jay. So first of all, I'll admit that I'm a socialist at heart, and I hope that doesn't scare away any potential investors. But I believe that the NFT world offers the opportunity for artists to use their creativity, create new artworks, and have the proceeds of those artworks go to support the artist, go back into the community to support additional public art being created, and to go to the causes that so many of these artists support. We have huge numbers of projects being created around climate change, social justice issues. I mean, just a whole host. Artists are touched by those issues, and they try and create artwork that speaks to those issues. So imagine if there is a system, which the NFTs offer, where some of those proceeds can go to the causes that the artists believe in. And I even think that the NFT world has the potential of turning nonprofit fundraising on its ear.
I fully agree with you there. And the concept, to make it clear for our viewers that may not understand, a lot of what Toni's talking about is smart contracts attached to these NFTs again. So theoretically, what you could do on any sale is you could have royalties, and those royalties can be split amongst there's unlimited number of sources. So if you want the artist if there's a 10%, as you guys said, you guys are taking your 10% cut. If the artist said, hey, I would like another 10% of the sale to go, 1% to charity, 1% to community, 1% to, the X, Y, and Z, and then even drive down even further to micro transactions, like there is no limit on this.
Right.
And so I entirely agree with you that, it's a game changer. The sooner that the world accepts smart contracts as a valid, kind of transaction source, the sooner we're going to see a lot more change, I think, in the way that people want to, because you have the transparency that showcases. It's not someone saying, hey, if you buy this artwork, I promise I'm going to save the dolphins and save the whales. Yeah. And then are you going to follow up? You don't know. But with the digital technology that Toni's talking about, at the time of transactions, you can validate and verify that the money went where they said it was going to go, and that it's you had the social good that you wanted. So I love this so much, guys. Real quick, if anyone wants to know more, they want to kind of follow up or work with CODAMADE or CODAworx, where can they best find you guys?
Right now,
you can find me. Yep.
Go for it, Toni.
Right. You can find me at Toni@CODAworx.com.
Fabulous. And Marc?
Same. Marc at yeswearemad.com, but you can also go through CODAMADE.com. We have a link to get in touch with us there.
Fabulous. Toni and Marc, thank you so much from Y-Whales. Y-Whales, this is CODAMADE, CODAworx, and a ton of excitement around the space. Guys, don't go anywhere. I will we'll catch up here in a second, but I'm going to stop the recording. Y-Whales, we'll talk to you next time. Be good.
Thanks, Jay.